Hello, hello. Welcome to Hostel Hotties, where we have Monique Fell out of the Seattle, Washington area. Hello, Monique.
Hi, Donna.
Good to see you. And then we have beautiful Jennifer Stewart down in Texas as our other Hostel Hottie, and we're missing Sharon. How are you doing tonight, Jennifer?
I'm doing well. It's so great to see you, ladies, and I'm excited to have this discussion with all of you.
Well, why don't you go ahead and introduce Beth as she is a guest that you brought on for us today.
Yeah, so Beth and I have seen each other many times at different locations all around the country. And in fact, I was so nervous to do karaoke one night because I'd never done it before. And I picked Bob Seger's Down on Main Street, which I'm sure you ladies know that song, right?
Oh, yeah.
And this was back when I still drank alcohol. I don't now. And I had a little bit of liquid courage to try to help. And Beth was kind enough to come up there and share the spotlight with me and sing a song that she didn't even pick. And not only that, but I consider her a personal friend. We have shared books with each other. And more importantly, she is a mom and a prolific investor. She's not scared of taking big risks. She's been successful and she's made the sacrifices. So she's not a rookie. She's been doing this for a long time, and she's one of my favorite people in the whole world, which just happens to be a lady. And so I thought, who better than to have Beth on to Wholesale Hotties?
Oh, that's great. Exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for that introduction. That's wonderful. Hello, everyone. Y'all want me to speak about where I started. So I'm in the North Alabama market currently, just outside of Huntsville. We currently have our tiny houses, which are in Lake Gunnersville, right outside of Lake Gunnersville, Alabama. And I started, I'd say I flipped my first house when I was 19. So I bought my first house at 19.
Wow.
I house hacked. And of course, what the kids call house hack these days, that was in the early 90s. We didn't have words for it back then, but I basically house hacked it. And a couple years later, I sold it. And life just got in the way. So it probably took me another 20 years before I thought maybe I should give real estate investing a chance again. My father had talked to me about it for years and years and years. And I just kept putting it off and saying, no, I don't have any money. How am I going to do this? I don't have any contacts. I have no money. I don't know anybody in real estate. And how do I get started with this again? And we started with Fortune Builders, and I don't know if anybody knows what Fortune Builders is, but
Yes.
that's where we started was Fortune Builders, and that was back in 2018. And I bit it off, and I just said, okay, this is it. You've got to make it happen now. And so we started there, and the Huntsville market at that time was really starting to take off. So it was very difficult to find deals. Very, very difficult. I think the first 3 or 4 years, we may have added, I think, about 4 properties to our portfolio. And in 2020, I had just started looking around and thinking, okay, how can I make this work? How can we add doors quickly? And so I started looking at land, and I started looking out in the Gunnersville area because it was a sleepy little lake town, but they were building a multi-million-dollar development on the lake to bring in tourism. So I just did a little Zillow search, and I saved it and had it send me emails to look for land, because my idea was I was going to purchase a piece of land and I was going to put tiny houses on it, basically. At the time, I was friends with a woman named Lisa out of Virginia, and she was building spec tiny homes. And so she gave me all the ideas. She was basically a mentor. And so I found this piece of land, and we jumped on it. We bought it. We literally had enough money in the bank to put one tiny house on this land. That's it. That's all we could do. So we put everything into this one tiny house, and what now I think back on is kind of a crazy idea. So at that point, we just said, okay, we bought the tiny house. We were starting to put stuff on the land to be able to have the tiny house, because you got to have electric and water and septic. And so we were working with the local county and, trying to get everything figured out and do everything as low cost as we could. and started searching for investors who were willing to take a chance on this idea that we had. And fast forward, it was probably about 6 months later, we did find a group that actually latched onto our idea and thought it was great. And so they gave us the funding to continue moving forward. And I can't say enough about the man who backed us. He really gave me a chance when we didn't have a chance from anybody that we spoke to about it. So if it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have the 8 tiny houses that we now currently have on the property and 33 RV sites, along with a renovated 1974 Airstream. So that's our property now. And so our thought was, well, we added 40 something doors in 3 years. So land is something I really want people to think about, because when all of it kind of aligns right, you can really make land worth the investment. So it's kind of a different avenue to get where we wanted to go, but that's kind of my story and where we kind of have ended up today.
Oh, bless you. Beth, how much land do you have to create something like that? What would you recommend for someone?
Well, so we have currently 13 acres of the property, and we could have added more RV sites, but because we aren't right on the water, we wanted a draw to bring people in RVs in, because we don't have the waterfront sites. So what we wanted to do is build bigger sites and build a more kind of cozy atmosphere, so that people felt more at ease. They're not right on top of each other, et cetera, et cetera. So that's kind of how we built our business model, was around that.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So you've got currently, you said 6 tiny homes?
We have 8 tiny homes and renovated Airstream. Those are all short-term rentals.
Nice, nice. And then you get people that come. Are you guys a seasonal location, or Alabama, is that year round?
Yeah, we're year round.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lake. So Lake Guntersville is one of the top bass fishing lakes in the southeastern United States. So there are fishing tournaments that start in February and end in November. So there's really, so there's kind of that, maybe a couple months there where it's a little slow, but for the most part, it's just kind of constant movement.
Right. Yeah, that sounds good then. So, I mean, I like that. How far are you guys from the lake then? Because I like your idea of like you were trying to like draw people in, knowing that you weren't right on the lake. And
right. So we're about 5 minutes from the water. We're about 5 to 7 minutes from 7 different boat launches. So you can basically be anywhere you want to on the lake in about 5 minutes, which is what the bass fishermen really like.
Yeah.
And that was the other thing. So we thought about it when we were building it out. Of course, the design of it isn't exactly the way I had it envisioned in my head, but you have to go with what the land lets you do. So basically the way that the tiny houses were set up, I said, okay, guys, the guys that were doing all of the dirt work, I said, I need these pads big enough because I'd like at least some of these houses to be able to have boat parking, because I knew that that was a main draw to Lake Guntersville. But it's really, we do have fishermen that stay with us, but it's a lot of people, staycationers, people coming from Huntsville. We're only about 30 minutes south of Huntsville, and Huntsville is set to be the biggest city in the state of Alabama here in a couple of years, just because it's growing so much.
Right. So like on your lots that you have the bigger space, so do you also like allow tents, so like families that come and they have their RV and they can put a tent up and stuff?
They can, if it's short term. We have, I think about half of them are long-term sites. So we actually have people that stay with us long-term, either, workers that come in town or just people that want to live in their RV. We have several of those. And then we do have short-term sites. And if someone wants to set a tent out there, they can.
How many of them are long-term versus short-term then?
We have 15 that are set up for long-term. The reason why I say set up is because they have Wi-Fi electric meters on them, so that we can bill back to the guests their electric usage.
Their usage. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's smart. So are you guys on well or septic, or is it all city utilities?
So we have city water and electric, and then we have septic. So we
Okay.
actually have lots of septic tanks now. Yeah. But
Yeah,
they let us do that instead of having some sort of, water treatment. Yeah. So they let us put in several. We had that's where we had to really work with the county for the engineered system
Mhm.
to make sure that we had enough for the long-term sites and then the short-term sites. Short-term is going to be much less drain on the septic system, but then you've got the long-term people that can really fill it up. So we had to have enough septic tanks out there to service all of those.
so when you bought the land, did you, before you closed on that, you made sure that you could do multi type of a business like this on there? Because I mean, some people might buy something and realize that.
Oh, yes. You absolutely want to vet the piece of land first. So you want to call the county and you want to check out what are their regulations on this particular piece of land. At the time when we bought it, Marshall County, which is the county that it's in, this particular piece of property did not have any restrictions on it, meaning we could put whatever we wanted to on it. The only restriction we had was the septic. So we did have to go into the county and we had to have the engineers come out and they had to look at everything and say, they had to approve everything that we put out there. But basically, other than that, we didn't have any regulations. Now the county has regulations. And the water board has come up here recently and they're trying to charge us just $1,000 a month extra just to charge us on top of the water usage, because they say we have too many long-term sites out there. So we're having to go to board meetings and things like that to talk to them about, hey, you can't just kind of come in at the last minute and be like, oh, here, by the way, here's an extra $1,000 a month expense that we were not expecting. So, it takes a little bit of finessing with the local authorities to make sure that you're doing everything right, because you want them to be on your side,
Right.
especially when it comes to things like this and thinking forward in the future. And like I say, they've changed quite a few of the regulations now. They don't really require you to have the land, whether it's commercial or residential. They don't require that because it's still in the county. It's not in the city limits. So I would suggest if you're looking for land, look outside of the city limits. Anything inside the city limits, you're going to have a lot of regulations. They're not going to want RV parks, mobile home parks. They're not going to want any of that stuff there. So I would definitely check with that.
Yeah, that makes sense. How long did it take you guys from the time you bought your property to actually get things where you could open up?
It was less than a year before I had the first tiny house up and running on Airbnb.
Okay.
And then the RV park, so we were working on that. So I basically wanted all of the tiny houses up and running on Airbnb so we could start having some cash flow, and then we would work on the RV park. And so we started working on the RV park after the tiny houses were all up and running. And so it took about a year after that to have the RV park up and running.
Okay. So you were able to, though, afford to make the payments on your land and the project as you were going, or did you?
Well, now I can't, there's not much I can say about that because there's a whole lot of things. Jennifer knows a little bit of it, but there's a whole lot of things going on in the background with this financing now.
Right.
So it's kind of up in the air right now. I will say that it's expensive money. So you have to be very careful and watch your expenses so that at the end of this, you can actually go in and get a loan on it. But which is what we're in the process of trying to do. But because of what's happening with the current lender, there are just some legal things that are going on that we can't get out of it right now. So we're just kind of stuck in limbo until all of these legal proceedings.
And we've talked about that a little bit on the show, Beth. We didn't name names for the dignity of the gentleman that you and I both respect very much, who basically had a partner, from what we understand, embezzle funds and put the company completely out of business. It was a company that I brokered loans for. And you talk about him, taking a shot on you. Same for me. I mean, he allowed me to broker loans for him without any prior experience, just knowing that I could bring a lot of folks in the door. And his staff did all the heavy lifting. I just brought folks to the door. And I think that he made such a great choice betting on you guys. He had no reason to think that any of this would happen, as you know.
Right.
And so now everyone's, scrambling, trying to
right.
get new loans because of this, and it's horrible. I mean, there's no other word for it. It's just these are the business problems that we face, and I love to discuss business problems as well as business wins.
Yeah.
Just like today, my farming emergency was that all of a sudden we have a ton of worms in our animals, and they weren't there yesterday, or at least I couldn't see them. And I check them every day. So what the heck's going on? And so everyone loves all the cute pictures of the animals, but nobody wants to see the deceased, the worms, the burying, right? And so I'm really big on sharing everything, the good, the bad, and the ugly, because that's how we have real community and solve real problems. And
Right.
Beth, I just admire you and your husband Fred so much, and I would love to hear about the partnership with that, because Fred is in the military, and so you are not only an entrepreneur, you are a military wife who
Aw.
held down the
Well,
fort.
I used to be. He's retired, but yes.
Oh, I didn't know he was retired. I
He's
missed the
retired.
memo on that.
He's still he's still a helicopter pilot and instructor pilot. So he still instructs armies around the world basically on the Chinook helicopter. So he is gone a lot. But yeah, he was in the military for 20 years and he retired about 10 years ago, actually. So it's been a while. I started the real estate after he retired because there's no way. I thought about it for so many years. Every place we were, I was like, oh, let's buy a house here and then we can turn it into a rental, But again, that mindset of, I don't have the money. How am I going to afford all these mortgages everywhere we go? Right?
Everywhere we go, yeah.
What you don't know. And until you get into the real estate investing space and you start learning from people around you, you start saying, oh, well, maybe I can do that, So I think it really, everything is in real estate is really, it's not hard. It's just, you have to learn it and then you have to actually do it. And I think that's the most problem with most people that I've met is they like to learn, but then they don't like to act on what they're learning. So that's kind of, I've just said, since we joined Fortune Builders, I just said, no way, I'm here. I've got all this knowledge. I've got all this network of people. I'm going to utilize it and I'm going to make this happen. So basically that's where we're at. And yeah, talking about business problems is, with a business, which is what this is that we have, it's actually a business. You can't base. So the problem with it is it's not real estate. You can't value it off of real estate because it doesn't value high enough to get a DSCR loan or something like that because it doesn't value the property high enough. So that's the other problem is finding someone who can come in and give a business loan on something that's currently a short-term construction loan, basically. So that's the issue that I would say that people really need to watch out for is how are you going to refinance this at the end of it, especially when you're building a business, because you are building a business, you're not building real estate.
Well said, Beth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically all of our network is all real estate investors and people who give loans on real estate. So now we're having to kind of reach out to other people to try to figure out how to find more of a business lender.
Bo Eckstein, because he has one leg in both. So he was in real estate forever and then pivoted to SBA loans. So do you know Bo?
I don't think so. I know we've talked to a few different guys. We have a friend who used to be an attorney in Atlanta, and he's been trying to set us up with some of his contacts that he has there. And I know we've spoken to a few people that do the SBA loans. And right now, because of what's going on with the current loan, the SBA won't touch us. So, we're waiting it all out.
Well, I just sent you a link to Bo, and then I'll text you his name after. And he's been on Jim's show many times, and then I've been on Bo's show back when Bo had a show. And so if anyone that I know of could help you, it would be Bo Eckstein.
Nice. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
That's why we're here, so we can help each other.
That's right. That's right.
That's right. And did you have any other rentals, Beth? I could not remember if it was all in the not working tiny town or if there were some other ones as well.
We do have another company, an LLC called Effortless Homes. And that was our original one. And that's where we have our owner finance properties, basically. We did have a couple of short-term rentals in that one, and we've turned those into owner finance as well. Just because it was too much. I had the ones in Gunnersville, and then I had others over in Decatur, and they're about an hour and 20 minutes apart. It was just too much for me to try to handle all of that and juggle it. So we just decided to turn all of them into owner finance properties. So that's what they are right now. And we're currently working in the foreclosure space here in Huntsville.
And when you say the
Great.
foreclosure space, you're trying to buy properties that are in foreclosure or stop the foreclosures or what?
Yes. So basically, you're looking at getting to the homeowner prior to the date that they're going to go to the courthouse, basically. So,
Right.
which is hard in Alabama because it's such a quick process. You basically have
Really?
maybe 2 weeks. Yeah, you have about 2 weeks before their auction date to really
Oh, wow.
get in touch with the lender and try to get something under contract. So it's a very quick process. So we've been trying to think of how we can get to the point where it's when they miss a payment. So you've got a little bit longer of a time frame, because I think it's usually 2 or 3 notices before they file the lis pendens. So before they file it with the county and give public notice. So you're going to, have a couple of months there to kind of help these people. So, but again, it's Huntsville. So we're starting to move out into the tertiary markets again, because Huntsville just, again, like, I mean, everybody and their brother wants to invest in Huntsville. So it's one of those towns that's the mayor's really good at bringing in business. He's really good at industries, and it just keeps growing and growing, and people want to live here. People are moving here every day. And so it makes it harder for, to get the sellers to understand, hey, we're trying to keep this from hurting your credit. We're trying to help you. And them say, oh, but I want top dollar.
Well, how typical, right?
I
Even
mean,
people in foreclosure want top dollar. Let that be a lesson to everyone doing acquisitions.
it is. They do. They want top dollar, or they say, I'm not going to give it away. So they still think that, I'm not going to take one on the chin because this person doesn't want to give me what I think it's worth. And so they just basically will trash the house and it'll go back to the bank.
That's very typical.
Yeah. And then the banks, of course, think that they can get top dollar for it because of the market, right? So it's not a down market here. So the banks kind of realize that they can probably just put it on the market too and get basically market rate for it.
Now, Beth, if I remember, you had your license at one point, and then you joined me at EXP, and then the EXP jumped down your gullet for some reason. And
yeah, well, it was, so there's one brokerage here in Huntsville that's EXP. And when I signed on with it, they didn't have a broker. So because they didn't have a broker, they couldn't really do anything with me because there was nobody there to sign off on me. So basically I waited around, and it took like 2 or 3 months. And then finally she contacts me, and I told her, I said, so this is what I want to do. And I basically told her what you were doing. I said,
Yeah.
I just want to refer people. That's all I want to do. And she was just like, okay, that doesn't work though. Like, you have to be an agent. I'm like, well, why are you saying this to me? Like, I don't have to do anything. Like, you're just supposed to hold my license. Like, you hold it.
Yeah, that's it. Just put it in EXP referral and refer deals. That's one thing I'll be doing tonight before I go to bed. Like, that was so weird to me. But the reason why I brought it up was because, can you be the person who lists the properties for the bank? So that is something that some of my folks and friends do through Revenos through EXP. And I'm not trying to plug, I'm just sharing tools, right? Yeah. And Revenos makes it so that you can become the realtor who basically represents these institutions, right? Like the bank, for example.
So in Alabama, the way it works is you can get your salesperson's license. Once you have your salesperson's license, and after 3 years, you can sit for the broker's exam. And basically, in order to be to work with foreclosures, you have to be a broker.
Oh, okay.
And you have to be able to, so basically your brokerage, the qualifying broker, the main broker over the brokerage, has to sign up to be that particular foreclosure agent basically, and then you just
Really?
work under them. Because I have a friend and she actually does it, and that's all she does. All she does is foreclosures. And
I was
she
gonna
has
say, because
years.
anytime you can corner the supply,
Yep.
whether it's clients, inventory, and be the go-to person, I can see why they do a broker, because it's going to reduce the amount of people who can do it. That's just
Well, I
a
think,
steady stream.
you know, for her, she is actually over. She just got voted in as the president of the Realtors Association around here. Actually,
Really?
so she may not be doing it anymore. She may just be
Yeah.
doing her presidential duties. So,
Well, it's kind of like I know doctors and therapists who don't take insurance, and they're constantly having to hustle for clients. But the ones who do take insurance, they're so booked, it's a joke. And so that's how, to me, that's how it is whenever you're a realtor and you're plugged into these institutions. It's like being a doctor or a therapist who takes insurance versus the ones who don't, where you're always having to pound the pavement and hustle.
yes, yes, and it is one of those things where for her it was constant business. She, like I say, I met her 8 years ago when I first became a realtor, and she had already been doing foreclosures for probably 15 years, and that is all she did. She did nothing else, just foreclosures.
Riches
She
in the
had her own
niches, right?
brokerage, so yeah, she's very successful. And she had the market cornered. I will tell you that, because I don't remember finding any other realtor in the area that did foreclosures like she did.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. She was,
Well, I always try to bring up ideas for transactional income whenever there's a financing thing on the line, right? So, like, I wanted to buy a new personal residence a few weeks ago, but my DTI was off, right? And I was like, well, I guess I need to increase my income, but I didn't really have a reason to need to increase it before, until there was a financing hurdle ahead of me that I couldn't do. And I thought, well, I probably need to increase my income in general, right? Even though I feel like it's pretty decent, maybe not for what I wanted to buy, right? So that being said, anytime we're facing a financing hurdle, I feel like transactional income can make things easier, right? So that's why I brought up that idea.
absolutely. And speaking of transactional, we actually sell the tiny houses too. So
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
we're a distributor for the builder.
Oh, nice.
No idea. Beth, I think you need to post about that more.
Yeah.
I never even think about it, actually.
Yes, yeah, post about that daily and in your stories. I'm sure you know Keith Rain, right?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I think he's a distributor, not of tiny homes, right? And then
He does mobile homes. Yep.
right, and then there's Pam. So, you know, Pam, I know you know Pam, but I don't ever see Keith advertise, but I do see Pam advertise.
Yeah, I've never seen Keith. Of course, I don't know that he's really on Facebook either.
Yeah,
I don't really see him post ever, so I can
hardly.
see that he wouldn't- yeah.
Well, and especially with that growth of that town, it's like here in the
Right.
Phoenix area and a lot of these other areas, they're allowing these ADUs in people's yards to help generate income and the housing crunch and stuff. So, yeah, you might find that as a niche that you could have people and help be a distributor and get those in people's homes.
In fact, Huntsville just passed something allowing ADUs, whereas it was so strict before that nobody had one. But now they've passed a law that they allow them, which makes a huge difference. And I know in Atlanta, I had my cousin lives in Atlanta, and they built a whole entire little neighborhood right in the middle of Atlanta. And I think there's 8 tiny houses on this one little street. It's just a little neighborhood, and the city let them build it. So you never know what a city will let you do. So long as you present your idea and they like your idea, they just vote on it.
Yeah, I know.
Interesting.
Yeah, because Arizona, when we moved down here, my husband, he's like, oh, they're just going to start allowing those ADUs. And we had done them up in the Portland area, Oregon, when we lived up there. And so he immediately got the name Maricopa Casitas because it was Maricopa County. And it's been a great lead just to having that name, to lock in a name that I don't know if you guys have got your name for that entity or not, but something that's catchy for people. And yeah,
No,
definitely.
it's called Not Working Tiny, KNT. Not Working.
Not working tiny. What was that?
Not Working
Okay.
Tiny Town is the name of it. Yeah. But we do have one that's called the Cozy Casita. So
Oh, I like that.
they're all different themes. Every single one of them is a different theme.
Yeah. So, but what is your business with them? Do you have a business name for their selling the casitas?
It's the same. So
It's the
it's all
same.
on the same
Okay.
website. So we
Oh,
actually,
okay,
if they go
cool.
to the website, they can actually go in there and they can do a drop down menu to buy a tiny home. I think we just had our SEO company redo the website, so I haven't been on it in a few days. But I think now up at the top, there's actually a box up there that you can click to buy a tiny home. And it'll take you and show you all of the different floor plans that are offered, all the different upgrades and things like that.
Well, that's nice because people like to see that kind of stuff.
Right. And then if they want to tour it, we do allow tours, of course, on the days that we don't have people staying, which is rare.
Right.
So they have to kind of schedule it. But they can come out, and if they have a specific model that they want to go and walk, we will take them through it. Or they can come and stay the night, and they can see what it's actually like to live in a tiny house.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I love it.
And we do have there's a tiny house builder that's actually right across the highway from us. And his houses, I think they start at about 150, 170,000, which to me is kind of crazy because ours start at 60, 65. So, but his are, I guess custom built. I don't know. But he sells them.
Yeah, you can't build anything in this Maricopa area for the 60, 70. It's definitely in the 100,000 over. Yeah.
Yep.
Depends
That's
where you're
why
at, what materials and labors and yeah, permitting and all that stuff costs.
Yes, the permitting is going to get you. Yep.
Yeah. But they're fun to see come
waiting.
alive and see people when they get them and how happy they are. Because a lot of them, we find a lot of them are for like mother-in-law or moving family, elderly family in close to the family to
Absolutely.
oversee.
And that's really a great way to do it, to allow people, because, stuff's getting tight for people. And I know when we lived in Hawaii, it was just normal for there to be 3 or 4 generations of a family living in one house, usually a 4-bedroom house. So it's nothing for them to do that. And I think a lot of that is going to be coming this way pretty quickly. And people are going to have to start thinking outside the box for how to live.
Yeah, it's going to become more of the norm. I know, like, we have one client that their mom's selling their house, and then they're going to, they're going to take the money from her sale of her home and build one. So it's like mom has her home, it's just being moved over. But when she does pass, it's on the daughter's land. And so she's like, I don't have to deal with any probates or nothing. It's hers actually. And so it'll just help the value of the home. And daughter may move in there and her kids may get the house. You don't know what's going to happen with it. But yeah.
Well, I know in Washington State too, and I don't know if this is every state that's doing this, but you can take those ADUs and you can put them on a property, and there's a way to split the property so they actually can become 2 different properties. You don't do it in advance, but you do it afterwards. And now you've got you've been able to make 2 lots where you couldn't do it before.
Right.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
I saw that up there when I was living in Seattle with Jim. This was back in 2014. And I was walking to work at a dental office, and I saw this. They converted their garage into this another little house in the back of the yard. And I'm like, oh, that's really cool. I wonder what they're going to do with it. They split the lot, and it was not a big lot.
Yep.
So now you have 2 houses, and they sold that one in the back for like $600 and some thousand.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Like, holy cow.
I just doubled your investment.
Yeah. I was blown away by that. I was just like, oh my gosh. But
Yeah. You can make it happen.
Call
For
it
sure. I
an
know we
ADU.
were looking at a lot over in Decatur. It's actually in the city limits, and it was about a ½ acre. And we were going to split it in 2, and we're going to put 2 tiny houses on it. And it was a little bit, it was probably 3 or 4 months of talking to the city engineers and getting them to approve it. And so we didn't end up doing it because we lost the piece of land while we're waiting on the city to tell us that they approved us for it. Because I didn't want to buy it if I couldn't do anything with it. So because of that, we lost the piece of land. But we got it approved. So if we, they had all of our plans and everything. So they knew exactly what we were going to do with it. So if we ever do find another small lot over there in Decatur, or anywhere else, we've got everything, our little packet we can just take to the city government and talk to them about it.
Yeah, it's becoming more of the norm, I think, than not, just because of the need for the housing. So affordable
Beth,
housing.
may I speak to something that you're passionate about? And if you don't want to share here in this context, I totally understand. But there's something that you have made a part of your life that I think would really help a lot of women. Would you be open to discussing what you have learned about HRT for women 50 and over?
Oh,
Oh, wow. Well, it's a huge subject. I will be honest about that. I would say that it probably started for me about 2 years ago. And I was just kind of speaking to a nurse about some symptoms that I had. And she told me, she said, "Have you ever had your hormones tested?" And I thought, no, why would I do that? And she's like, "You really should have your hormones tested." And she kind of told me about her kind of way that she had gotten through all of this. And she gave me the doctor that she went to, and he's an HRT specialist. And I thought, it took me a couple of months, and I finally just said, okay, enough is enough. I'm just dealing with too much. I really just need to figure out what's going on with me. And so I went in and I got tested, and came back. I was basically in menopause. Of course, I didn't know because I had had a hysterectomy many years ago. So for me, it was just one of those things. I just assumed at some point in time, I guess it had happened. I mean, I wouldn't know one way or the other, except I had all these symptoms, which was what was causing all of the issues for me. And so, I mean, I thought I was getting arthritis because every single joint in my body hurt. I wasn't sleeping at night. I was waking up with night sweats, just, drenched head to toe. And this anxiety in the middle of the night, I'd wake up and my heart would just be beating out of my chest and I couldn't go back to sleep. Just all of these things. And I just thought, well, it's just being older, I guess. And so, because that's what my main doctor had told me every year I went in, she was like, "Oh no, we don't, this is just kind of part of growing older, And I said, well, okay. And the brain fog was horrible. And the cognitive decline was probably the worst symptom for me. And I thought, well, this is just my life. I'm just going to have to deal with it. And I tried everything: exercise, diet. I mean, you name it, supplements. I tried everything under the sun to fix all of these symptoms. And so when they told me, they're like, well, basically, yeah, you're in menopause. What we're going to do is, because of my family history with breast cancer, they didn't want to put me on estrogen. And so we started out with testosterone, because basically, if you are making a little bit of estrogen, the thought is, if you're not in menopause, this is important. If you're not in menopause and your body's still making estrogen and it's still fluctuating, that increase in testosterone will help to make more estrogen basically in your body.
Interesting.
yeah, that is
The thought
interesting.
process of the doctor. So he said, we're going to put you on this. We'll do this for 3 months. Of course, every 3 months I go back in and get retested. And so they put me on the progesterone because of the sleep and the night sweats and the anxiety. And that basically took that away almost immediately. And then the testosterone probably took about 2 weeks, but my brain fog was completely gone. My energy levels were back to what I remember as being normal from 6 or 7 years ago. And so to me, I was like, okay, I feel great. And so I go back in, and basically my estrogen's at nothing. The testosterone, of course, is raised, but it has done nothing to the estrogen. So they did put me on some estrogen, just a very, very, very low dose of a patch. So I'm not taking anything systemically. Mm-hmm. It's just a patch that goes on the skin, so it's not processed through the whole body, but it gives you all of the benefits of estrogen, all of the cardiac benefits, the brain benefits, basically,
and bones.
Yeah, bones. Every system in your body has estrogen receptors in it. So basically the estrogen is really the most important, but it's also the scariest part for a lot of people, especially for me with
cancer.
The cancer. But for me, it was one of those things where I don't have the genetic markers for any of the estrogen dominant cancers. So that's why the doctor said, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to put you on this, but we're going to watch you. So that was about a year ago. And I would say that I've tried to learn as much as I can about it, because I think it's really important for women to understand that we have a choice. We have a choice as to what we want to do at this age. And I certainly am not going to push it on anybody. If you want to take it, go to the doctor, get tested, figure out what works for you. And so what I like about it for me is it made me feel so much better. This is what's really funny to me is if you would have told me 2 years ago that I was going to be on hormones, I would have told you were crazy, because nothing, like I wouldn't even take a Tylenol. Like that's how serious I was about not taking any sort of medications. So it wasn't lightly that I took this, but the symptoms were so extreme for me that I could not live another day. I was barely getting out of bed. Like it was so bad. And I didn't realize how bad it was until I got the help I needed. And then I started looking back and thinking, oh my gosh, I spent 5 years just in a nightmare cycle of it never getting fixed, basically. But so what the estrogen does, and I'm going to get back to estrogen because I think it's really important for women to understand how important it is later on in life. So had I known this, generally where they want you to start the estrogen is about 5 years before you actually hit menopause, because technically that's like that good spot where you really want to start taking it, because it helps to keep your bone, because once we go into menopause and we stop making estrogen, the bone loss is extensive, the collagen loss is extensive, the brain loss is extensive, the cardiac damage is extensive. It's very quick that it happens. And so their thought process is, let's keep these estrogen receptors doing what they should be doing. So basically I tell people it's like you're just pushing the goalpost down the line. So in getting things like cognitive decline or cardiovascular disease or all these things, you're basically just pushing that goalpost a little further down, a little further later in life. And so your quality of life is going to be better for the next 10, 15 years. And hopefully, possibly you're putting off any sort of, bone loss problems or, falling. And because they say that women die usually from cardiovascular disease or from falling and fracturing a hip. And that hip, basically, they say that women generally live about 6 months after fracturing a hip. So when you think about things like that, you really do want to protect the bones. So all of these things, and I will say I follow a lot of the doctors that are in this space on social media, because they're just a plethora of information on the new studies that are coming out, and they talk about how important it is for all of these different systems in your body, what all of these hormones do for us. And actually, I know men, they have these same hormones as well, but just not, and they don't go through menopause like we do, where it's just basically a shutdown of all hormones. Theirs is much more gradual over 30 years, until
right. Which so their brains get to adapt. Where ours, there's like total freak out time, right?
Yes.
Like, you know what I mean?
Your brain basically doesn't know what to do, because it's not getting all of what it needs. And so, so the years around menopause, menopause symptoms can last for a really long time. So for me,
well, I don't know about you, Beth, but I just don't have any patience for incompetence right now. I don't have any patience for people not doing what they're supposed to do. Whereas before it'd be like, oh, well, but now it's like, I told you to do this. Why didn't you do it? And they're like, geez, Jen. I'm like, no, there are serious consequences by you not doing what I asked you to do and do your job. Right. Yep. And I can't even hide it. It's like I've become the person I always wished that I had the confidence to become, but it's not confidence. It's a lack of, I think, hormonal buffer that makes me nice.
Literally, there is no BS buffer anymore. Like, you just don't care. You literally do not care. I just expect you to do what I told you to do, and I shouldn't have to tell you
Especially if I'm paying you to do it and paying you extremely well to do it. Can we say contractors?
Right. So it's one of those things where I was proud of myself, because I was like, Beth, look at you. Like, you're really standing up for yourself, and like your BS meter is like gone. You're just not putting up with anything. And I thought to myself, oh my goodness, there's something wrong here, because this is not me. So I'm still that way, but a lot more, I would say, diplomatic about how I handle situations. Yeah. Whereas
we have to be diplomatic.
I had no patience. I had no patience. It was just do what I told you to do.
Especially when you're the stakeholder, all the stuff is on you. You're the one who has to deal with all the consequences. It's your name on the business. It's like everyone here can relate to their name being on the business and things falling on them, right? And so when you were talking about that, Beth, I thought, gosh, that is so me. I might lose all of my staff due to the fact that I'm actually holding them accountable.
Right,
and that's okay.
right.
I'm okay replacing my staff who's okay being held accountable, but I don't want to do that all in one day. That
Right. And I think that's the thing with, you do get to a certain age where you just don't care. You're kind of tired of, going around people and making excuses for bad behaviors and things like that. And so you just start holding people accountable, and people aren't used to that. They're not used to women being that way. And so that's why when you get to middle age, people are like, oh, well, you're just turning into one of those women, and you think to yourself like, man, I'm coming into my own. Like, no,
I've always been the person on the inside, right? But then after so many years,
right. Oh yeah.
It's like, I can't, I'm going to lose my mind. Like I might look crazy now, but it's just been bubbling up.
I definitely look crazy. I promise you. It was a tough time before I felt like I could get my feet out. I could get my feet under me again. So I think that's basically what I feel like the hormone replacement therapy has done for me. Is it's just kind of, it's helped me to get my feet under me again and feel like myself, but better.
And I do feel like women, for some reason, are resistant to female bosses. So one of my clients, who I'd like to have on the show soon, if it was a man holding my team as accountable as she was, then they wouldn't be upset. But because it's a female, they're like, oh man, she's difficult. I'm like, is she? Or is she just asking you to do what I told her we said we were going to do? Right. So is she difficult, or are you not doing everything that we as a team said we were going to do for her? So instead of treating her in a belittling way, instead I empower her. I'm like, hey, thank you for being the kind of person, the kind of woman who holds my team accountable. I want to encourage that. Yes. And then a couple of them were like, well, I don't want to work with her. And I'm like, well, then I'm not sure I want to work with you. Right. Because all she's doing is asking you to do what she has paid us to do. But because she's a woman, I noticed some backlash. I think because I'm a woman, I noticed some backlash. And I'm like, I refuse to accept that.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. I just feel like if somebody is the boss, then you listen to them. It doesn't matter what gender they are. They run the business. They know the back end of everything that you don't know. They see the things that you don't see. So there is a reason, there is a method to the madness.
Especially with my lazy self. There's always a reason, because I am so lazy by default. If I'm telling you to do something, it is extremely mission critical.
Yep. Yep, I'm the same way. I don't just ask, and I'm one of those people that I will handle things on my own if I possibly can. So if I do delegate it to you, that means that this is serious business. And
yes, because I'm not one of those people who make stuff up just to make stuff up. Karen time. I like to relax. I like to. The real me is just a woods dwelling hippie, but I have to come into society to make money, in which case I'm going to do as little as possible to make as much as possible in a way that's legal and ethical. In which case, if I'm asking someone to do something, it is absolutely necessary. I don't, how some people enjoy bossing people around. I actually hate bossing people around. So I just give them the bare minimum that needs to be done in order to do a great job. And when people don't do that, it's like, how much less could I ask you to do?
Exactly. It gets very frustrating. Yeah.
Monique and Donda, can you ladies relate to that in your businesses?
I was just going to ask Monique, because I know she deals with a lot of employees and stuff in her water restoration business.
It's definitely a different animal today than it used to be. I was like way too nice compared to what I am now. And I'm in a very male dominated field. Mm-hmm. So it becomes like, you're called names and everything else. And I'm very fortunate. And I have a brother who's my business partner, and he backs me up even when he knows I might not be 100% right. just because, we need that, because what happens is, then the reputation goes down and then they don't respect you
Exactly.
until the things go on, especially with the male gender. And so he'll make sure that if people aren't listening to me, he will just like jump right in and
Mhm.
take charge. And all of a sudden, what I just said matters. It's just the most
Exactly.
bizarre thing in the world.
Yep.
And very frustrating, but
It is.
I'm like, do I have to keep a weapon on my person and brandish it from time to time in order to be taken seriously?
Just so you know, I'm
What do I
serious.
have to do for you to
Right.
see that just because I have more estrogen than testosterone, that I don't know exactly what the heck I'm talking about?
Right.
So that is so frustrating to me. And so, Monique, I'm so glad that you have your brother. And also, as we go back to talking about the doctor, I take Daryl to the doctor with me just to sit there. And when Daryl is there, they really listen intently.
Yep.
And me having a science background, I have timed how much longer they're willing to sit there with him there. It's an extra 5 minutes, which is significant for doctor time. So,
Yeah.
unfortunately, ladies, if you're going to the doctor, take a man with you. Even if all he does is just sit there, just his presence imbues validation to your existence and your opinions and your thoughts and your emotions.
Yep.
Huh.
I actually did notice that. There's been very few appointments that my husband's ever gone with me on, but I have noticed in the ones that he did, like when I was pregnant, all of a sudden they listened to the fact that my heart rate and my blood pressure was up. And I was like, I've been telling you for 6 months now, and you can clearly see it every time I come in, but nobody took it seriously. It was really crazy.
And then whenever you escalate because no one's taking you seriously, then you're the crazy lady, right?
Right.
And so you can't win. And so
Right.
so you have to dispatch men like you do trucks. Okay, the truck dispatch, like, all right, we got to dispatch a mail here. Here we go, breaker 1 2. I need a mail.
That's too funny.
I'm going to the gas station at night. Breaker 1 2. Give me a mail.
Yeah.
No kidding. No kidding.
I guess you can start a whole nother mail handyman business.
Come up with that
Instead
business.
of mail escorts like that.
Yeah.
I think we got a business here. We can get some robots,
know, right?
some male robots that
Escorts.
look like they're not robots; they're real men, just to escort women around and say, speak up for them.
All right, my mom got pulled over once in the 90s with a dummy male because she had to go out somewhere late at night. She put a wig and a hat on him and she got pulled over. And the cop was like, ma'am, you can't have this. She goes, it's just because I didn't want men messing with me. He's like, don't let me catch you out here on the roads with this thing in your car in the front seat.
Oh, that's funny.
So Monique, your idea has some archaic precedents, but lacks the sophistication of the AI robots, right? That will probably last a lifetime.
Yeah.
Well, we'll probably be allowed to have that in our cars nowadays.
Yeah,
Right.
you're right. Well, Beth, do you mind sharing I wanted to talk about this because as operators, we have to operate at a top cognitive level. And you brought that to my attention. That's not like our grandparents' generation where we can just go home and knit and suffer with maybe a little bit of grandma's cough medicine, that we sneak in, okay, to dull the pain. We have to truly function as intelligent operators. And so what is your ideal estradiol measure for you personally? Did you have that where you've worked out like where you feel the best in your estradiol? Just because those ranges are so broad. Like I'm looking at mine right now from last week. I got them tested because of you. It's like 40 to 400 is normal.
Mm-hmm.
That's a ridiculous. How am I supposed to know what feels good in there? So do you have a number for you in terms of what feels good?
Well, so to protect all of the areas that we spoke about, the bones, the brain, the heart, you're looking at, you want a blood level of about 100. So that's what the studies are saying.
Interesting.
How to protect. So a woman's level could be anywhere around that, or she could be at 200 and feel great. For me, it's probably a little lower than 100. The last time I went in, it was at about 90, and I felt felt fine there. So I think I think they say anywhere between 80 and 100, you're still going to get those protective measures from the estrogen.
Okay, mine was at 81 right before ovulation because I'm in my early 40s, so I still have that.
Oh yeah.
But that was like peak, like the day before you ovulate. So that's probably where I peak at, Beth. So thank you for that perspective.
Yeah, and like I say, and you can actually track it through your cycle, and you can say, where do I feel the best during my cycle, and then go
Right.
and have your blood tested then, and then you can say, this is kind of a baseline for where I want to maybe need
Exactly.
to be. You're going to have to play because you're kind of a guinea pig for yourself.
That's
and you have to
why I
figure out
had it
what.
tested that day, Beth, because I knew that during ovulation is typically where I feel the best in terms of confidence and sharpness. But it does not where I have the least amount of anxiety. So I've learned what you learned is that as progesterone goes up, which is more like PMS time, I sleep better, my anxiety is better. And so isn't that interesting, right? What a fun roller coaster ride we get to ride.
It is. It is. And I mean, it is kind of fun because you learn more about yourself, which I think is really important. And I think menopause is actually a great time for women. It's been a very difficult road for me, but it's also been a huge learning opportunity for me to actually learn who I am. I mean, I always say this, I'm like, gosh, it took me 50 years to really know me and to kind of get back to that girl that I remember being when I was younger.
Yeah.
And not have the identity of mom and wife and business owner, but who am I? What do I want? Where should I be going? What should I be doing? What does God want me to do? Where does he want me to go? How does he want me to continue living my life? So it's all these things that kind of, I guess you get to middle age and you kind of say, well, I can't have babies anymore.
Right. Can't fill my time with that.
To society. So and that's, we had a conversation about that. And so, yeah, you kind of have to, it's like a whole new life that now you get to live, which I think is just, it's an amazing blessing. And I hope and pray that it just gets better from here, because I feel like all of these doctors that are drawing attention to this and are helping women to live better, longer lives, I think that is huge for me. Because, all in my 20s, I worked for OBGYNs, and I just, I saw all of these things and all of these women and these female doctors who were really trying to do the best they could for women.
Right. Well, back then they had Premarin. You remember that? When they just put you on like the pregnant female mare hormone. Do you guys remember Premarin?
Oh, yeah. The progesterone. Yeah. So now they have the micronized progesterone, which is actually it's much closer to what our bodies actually make. So that's the one that you're going to want to ask them about. It's bioidentical is what they're called. So all of the hormones, I mean, it's basically what your body makes. So I don't consider it like I'm taking a prescription, even though they are prescriptions. They're just, I'm just putting stuff back in my body that my body already makes.
It's interesting. I really appreciate you going over that, and thank you for sharing that with us, because there are a lot. I've had friends, like one that was like severely depressed for 10 years, and she's kept calling because she was suicidal. I mean, that stuff can really affect people until they get it figured out. It was horrible.
Right. And I think most women just think, well, this is just the way my life is going to be. And that's what the doctors tell you, because every time you go in, that's all they ever say to you. Oh, well, this is just part of getting older. And you think to yourself, really? Like, I feel like I'm like my grandmother has rheumatoid arthritis. So I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to get rheumatoid arthritis. And then my cognitive decline was so substantial. I couldn't even come up with words to say. Like I couldn't, my brain wouldn't tell me the words. Like I would be mid conversation and I would just sit there and nothing would come out. And I thought, is this the beginning signs of dementia?
Right.
Yeah, that is how it feels, isn't it?
Right. And you just think to yourself, I'm so used to working at such a high level cognitively that that decline was so substantial for me that I thought, I don't think I can run a business the rest of my life. I don't think I can do that because my brain just isn't going to allow me to do it. And I was floundering, and I just thought, I thought nothing of this when I went in to get tested. I was like, whatever. I mean, this is just a joke. I'll just find out my levels and whatever. And when he told me he was going to put me on testosterone, I was like, okay, I guess I'll do that. And then the progesterone, I thought, well, I had been on progesterone before I had my hysterectomy to try to fix all the issues. And I was like, okay, but that was the horse stuff, right? And that
right, yeah, the horse where they just make they made these horses pregnant long term, just kept them pregnant in these stalls. And then the urine would like drip down through whatever. And then they would take the hormones from the horse's urine and make the pills. That was the only drug that was available when I was taking women's biology class in 2009, which was long before I had to worry about any of that stuff. And but my professor was like, this is the best that they have available. Here's what they make it out of. And I thought, woo. Good thing I probably won't live long enough to deal with that, as wild as I was. I just thought, nah, I won't be here for that. Yeah. Well, here I am.
Here I am. That's right. That's right. That's right.
So, yeah, but I don't hear anyone talk about Premarin anymore, so hopefully that's not a thing.
No, like I say, the one I have is, it's the bioidentical. So, and it really has worked wonders for me. I wouldn't say I sleep through the night, but I sleep better and I don't wake up with and I actually have tried to not take this stuff. I've tried, let's see what happens if I go off of it for a week, and everything comes right back. So every symptom comes right back. So to me, I'm still working with it. I'm still trying to figure out, the patches. I do the estrogen patches, and those I'm supposed to do twice a week, but I really only wear it for maybe 3 or 4 days of the week. And then I just take it off, and then I don't put another one back on for 3 or 4 days. So I feel the best with that, whereas some women have to be on the highest dose of patch, and then their numbers really don't ever escalate to where they're getting the protective measures. So it really just depends on your body. There's so many, like some women can't take progesterone at all. It just completely messes everything up for them. So there's just so many different factors that go into it. So I can tell you what I do, but you're going to be totally different. And you are kind of a guinea pig, and you just have to go off of your symptom relief and, what is really helping you and what is also protecting you. And that's the most important thing, is what is the protective measures that are happening in your body.
Well, there's also the creams. There's the patches, there's the creams, like a lotion. Yes.
Oh, there's all sorts of, there's all sorts of delivery mechanisms for estrogen and testosterone, actually.
Right.
Testosterone is also a cream. You can do, I think it's either a cream or a shot. And those are basically your two choices with the testosterone. But they can also, I have a friend who's on the estradiol and testosterone cream. So it's basically one cream, and she uses it once a day. And she had to work with that because that was giving her too much. So it was giving her too much testosterone. And so she was going into the doctor, and they're like, wow, your levels are too high. So she had to back off of that. So now she's not doing it every day. I think it's every other day. So it is kind of this thing where you've just got to figure out what works best for you.
Right.
And that's just working closely with your doctor and, knowing your numbers and learning what is protective and what's best for you. And that's why I say it's, nobody has to take it. But if it's something where you feel like it's going to help you, and the doctor says it's okay for you to take it and just test your numbers every 3 months, then why not feel better and protect your body at the same time?
Right.
But learn about it for sure. I know there's several doctors out there. Mary Claire Haver, Haver, she's written a book about it, and she's also on Facebook. She's a great source. And Dr. Kelly Casperson, she's another one. And then Vonda Wright, Dr. Vonda Wright, Wright. Those are the top 3 that I say. And then there's a podcast. There's one on the Huberman Lab that has Mary Claire Haver. If you just look up Huberman and Mary Claire Haver on YouTube, you'll find that one. And I think it's like 3 hours long. So it's a panel of these female doctors that are on there talking about it, and they go through all sorts of things. And then there's another one, Diary of a CEO, I think, is the other one. And I believe his name's Steve Bartlett, I think. And I think he did an interview with those doctors as well.
Awesome.
So and I know it's 3 hours, but I think it took me 3 or 4 days to actually watch it because I don't have that length of a time. But you
Right.
can also go in there and they bookmark all the different things that they talked about, so you can skip forward if you want to and skip over stuff. But
That's great.
great
Well, you
information.
guys, we're definitely at the top of our hour. That went by really, really fast. We didn't mean to keep you so long, Beth, but that was some really great information. I really appreciate it. And I know I'm going to go and get tested again because I have kind of been struggling with some stuff myself. So it's just a reminder we need to be on top of our health. It's very important. So thank you.
If we're not healthy, we can't be healthy for anybody else. So
That's right.
That's so
very
true.
important.
Mhm.
Very important.
So, well, ladies, it's
Very
a
nice
great.
to meet all of y'all.
You too, Beth. And thank you for sharing all your adventures with real estate and then also this hormone, therapy. We need to research a good doctor that's on top of this kind of stuff and go do that versus just your traditional
Yeah,
family
a
doctors.
hormone replacement therapy specialist, an HRT specialist, is going to be your best bet. That's who I go to because he's learned everything he needs to learn. Whereas OBs, I think, only get about 6 weeks worth of hormone replacement therapy information when they go through med school. So
Oh my
if you
gosh.
understand, they don't learn much at all. So an OBGYN is probably not going to be a good source unless she or him, unless he's gone to some specialized menopause training.
Sounds great.
Yep.
Well, good night, ladies, and we'll see you
night.
next
Thank you
week.
for having
Thank
me.
you again, Beth.
Bye-bye.
Bye.